need to clean up a little. I don't feel guilty about being here real with you, Danny, and your lovely audience. Your conscious, awesome words are everything cutting edge of your mind.
We welcome you in your totality. And just to like presence the synchronicity, I'm interviewing Robert Forte on Wednesday, who says hi and that he loves you.
Yeah, I'm sending this through.
He's getting a haircut tomorrow in preparation, and I'm getting a haircut today. So thank you for accepting me in my overgrown, super frizzy totality.
You know what's interesting is I'm trying to find out where you are on the Zoom. Oh, there you are. Yeah, it was like only showing my face, and it just felt weird because I'm just getting a little hypnotized. But now I can see you. It just...
Oh yeah, it's good to switch the view. I like when I'm just seeing you and not seeing myself.
It's easier because if I have an opportunity to look at myself, I'm going to and subconsciously be like, oh, look at that. Oh, you're doing this thing. Da, 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 da.
Okay, I had a thought about that the other day, which kind of folds into our chat today, which is I'm always happier when I'm not looking in the mirror. Looking in the mirror is so inorganic. Like no other species on the planet is just gazing at themselves in the mirror, which is the issue that I've had with makeup my whole life, where like the way that I'm wired is if I spend too much time looking in the mirror, I get physically nauseous. So it's like, it always was the weirdest thing that like women are supposed to wear makeup. So like every day we're just supposed to stare at our face and like obsess on it. And now progress is being branded as men get to do that dumb shit too. Waste all this time staring in the mirror.
That would be advancing that would advance our culture. If you just spend, because essentially you're leaning further and further into the mirror until you become part of this like Black Mirror scenario. Right? If you get close enough, the mirror turns black.
Well, and it's also like the Narcissus mythology where he falls in.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
that's where they're attempting to push us.
You could not use a mirror to put makeup on and see how that goes.
I think when I do wear makeup, that's what it looks like.
I've done the Burning Man before, or just like kind of have a reflection-ish thing and just done like eye makeup and stuff. And it's just better for having someone else do it. Actually, that might be the solution to the mirror piece, is just have someone else do your makeup.
Oh, right. Move towards interdependence instead of narcissistic self-obsession.
Yeah. Like maybe you do someone else's makeup and they do yours. You could have a makeup buddy, and then you don't have to spend time in the mirror.
But think about the time and effort that goes into that exchange, when instead we could be like doing squats, breath work, brainstorming solutions.
You could be doing all of that while applying makeup.
I don't want to.
Wait a second. If I go back, can I like appear in? No, it doesn't work.
Well, that's kind of like my morning birth from the center of the multiverse ritual.
I'm glad I found this image like right when we started talking.
Was it in the like Zoom standard images or?
No, I was dissatisfied. I was dissatisfied with Zoom standard. So I was like, what do I want to be? Because DK has this really cool hypnotic, like where I'm focused in here, I'm framed. And I was like, I feel like we could have a complementary. I want a black and white something. I know, light speed. Godspeed, light speed, bada bing.
Thank you so much. So you are my first podcast guest who has mirrored my background.
Are you surprised?
I'm not at all. Okay. Given that it all started with Conscious Awesome. Wait, are we drinking the same thing?
No, close.
What's yours? They're pink though. Oh.
Mine's a cannabis one.
Oh, mine has reishi and lion's mane.
I wish they were combined.
I do too.
That would be cool. This one is 2 milligrams of THC.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's apparent. This is.
Can you feel it when you drink it?
Yeah, but like, just enough to be like, oh, I had a beverage, but I don't know how to open it. I kind of do. I kind of don't remember. There's
Hands
instructions.
are hard.
Um, okay, I gotta pull it. Ooh, spray the screen.
Success.
Okay, and then I slide it. Oh, there we go. And it's kind of carbonated. That's nice. I had one of these around New Year's. I met this really cool guy at the barbershop, which is like the sacred masculine. It's the heart of the sacred masculine. It's our safe spot. It's the barbershop.
I love that.
Amazing things. I have epic, deep male conversations at the barbershop that are like kind of on par with like my men's fire circle.
Cool.
Where it's like you could just go in there. Actually, I ended up buying this book because of a. Do you like this book? It's called Invisible 2.0.
Confessions of an Illuminati.
Yeah, it's a small book. I mean,
Looks really small.
You can't. Here.
But I can see how wide your fingers are holding nothing.
Right. It's Confessions of a Illuminati, Volume 8. I got this one.
1 through 7?
No, I got this one because this whole beginning of it is about frequency, which I'm excited. It's like music and frequency and the impact of that.
The Templar temple that is built underground in Ethiopia?
No.
Okay, I'm so obsessed with all of the Knights Templar who stole all of their information from our family temple in Israel, and it gives them all this mastery over architecture and geometry. And I'm like obsessed with.
Did we lose? Like, did they steal it? I guess it
Stole
wasn't
it from Solomon's temple.
And so it's not like we had a digital copy. It wasn't passed on. It was probably like scroll. It was probably like there may have been some people who knew it intimately, but if they didn't pass on everything, then.
Well, it's the big mystery, and I'm almost finished with this particular Templar book, but it's like they were allegedly so noble, and I'm like, well, your whole order was founded on theft, and where was David and Solomon's family back then to defend all that? And why was all that knowledge like buried with the ark? You know, like I need a lot more intel.
What year did that happen?
1099.
And that was way after David and Solomon.
Correct.
Like decades of generations.
Correct.
It's challenging to pass things on generation to generation. You know, like that's what like blows my mind about the Great Wall, because the Great Wall of China took 50 generations to build. It's 2,000 years. Teamwork. Yeah, that's like, I mean, how do you do a project like that gets built over 2,000 years?
Well, I think you have a mindset that hasn't been like shaped by Western independence, which, don't get me wrong, I love, but it's like a whole different paradigm where it's for the collective. It's for the tribes. It's not about like, what am I going to get out of this toil for myself?
Like, there's no point. You're not seeking to find your purpose. Your purpose is given to you, and this is what you do. And you're like, oh, thank goodness I have something to do. Oh, good. Tea arrived. Thank you. There's a tea package arriving. Thank you. Here, I'll give it to him. Yes, that's good. You know what? At the coffee shop. Yes, but I'm on a very important podcast right now. Yeah, it's okay. I could have put a sign on the door. I was thinking about getting one of those, actually.
Do not disturb podcasting?
Or on air. Yeah, or like, one of those things like sound sensitive here at the moment. But Lisa didn't know that. She was just doing a beautiful, kind thing to deliver this tea box. I met this guy at the coffee shop, and he was like, "You should try our teas." And I was like, "Great, here's my address." And he just sent me like a jaw-dropping amount of tea. I kind of feel like I'm cheating on Colin a little bit, but
Colin popped into my mind today. Thank you for reminding me.
I want to just circle back.
I
want to cycle back. Thank you. I want to cycle back to it's like so honoring our people, this. the verification, like how do you know it's real? When I
Yep.
had my hands like this.
Yes.
I feel like an appropriate use of AI would be authenticity check with voice. Like, do you know what? You remember how Don Estes did that
He's
voice
coming on the
analysis?
podcast.
When? I'm so excited.
I think next week.
That's amazing because I'm gonna be in LA end of next week, and Teresa is gonna be in LA, and I was wanting to connect her because she's working on a sound project. And I was like, oh, you got to know Don Estes. Another's.
That's all. Gene Keys, Teresa?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely
Okay. So I'm gonna put this as like an extra check mark of priority in Los Angeles because you kind of have to have those, otherwise
Otherwise, you just spend your whole time in Erewhon.
yeah, which will probably they'll be my off time. Um, so authenticity checking, Don S is like that, like an AI, or less of like AI. AI is such a like the term is overused now that everything that's like cool in computers is AI. It's like, oh,
Wait,
it's
whoa, whoa,
thinking.
whoa, 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 wait. Let's roll. I cannot sign on to anything that's cool is AI.
Well, I did it in the
It's a total
voice.
psyop.
I mean, I don't even think it's AI. Like, everything that's being called, it's a co-opted thing. Like, it's just an algorithm. Here's a cool, clear, cancel, delete. Here's a complex algorithm. We're just going to call it AI for all the people that don't know how to think about things that are complex.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is like, I'm being sold short. I don't want to buy it.
Please don't.
I'm
Please
not
do
buying
not.
it.
Yeah.
Have you played with that LGBT chat?
Fuck no. I want nothing to do with it. And I like it's time for us to just say no to automation. Like I'm so annoyed the fact like how unchecked it is and how we're being indoctrinated not to question as though we don't have a choice. Like we do not have to automate. We do not have to go down this road on any level. And if we could just bring in the feminine and have a conversation as to whether or not this serves the collective and what's best for us as an entire species, then we could come into right relationship. But instead, we're being like bullied by, this like unchecked masculine that's like, we must move forward technologically. We have no choice in the matter. I will not play with ChatGPT. I want nothing to do with it.
So we're really being run by shadow masculine.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's not like, because the discerning, what's the opposite of shadow masculine? Light masculine, the
balance
illuminated masculine.
It's like the evolve masculine.
Sounds like a word needs to be created.
I mean, it's just like
maybe it's just the masculine.
I feel like it's just the masculine.
So like the integrated masculine, which is aware of the shadow. What would that look like for progress to be being created by an integrated masculine?
Well,
and then let's do it for integrated feminine.
Okay, I love this. So
game, here we go.
Game. I love this game. All right, so progress, like I don't actually think that continuing to walk the road of technological progress is the shadow masculine. I think that is the capital M masculine. I think implementation is missing the feminine. And this goes back to the fact that masculine and feminine are interdependent. So the way that the conversation is being so one-sided, I would say that is the shadow aspect of the masculine, but I don't think the actual advancement itself is shadowy. It's just what is proper implementation, when is proper implementation. It's just, for me, it just feels like the feminine is missing from the conversation.
I hear that, and that resonates. It's one of those things where I'm visualizing the masculine like coming home with the bacon or coming home with the tech and being like, here you go, honey. You organize it, make sure our bills get paid and everything, buy the things that we need, food on the table and implementation. But like the masculine I would like for the masculine to be free to invent and create at will. And it needs to go through it would be a more balanced, a more beneficial human path to go through a filter, and not even a filter, more of like to be placed into the discernment of the feminine.
Yes, I also think
There's a cool thing with that, actually.
there are many cool things with that.
Yeah.
Like with the metaphor that you brought up, it's like if the man goes to Costco and loads up on 3 months worth of groceries, it's on the like the feminine don't make one meal out of that. The feminine decides what goes in the freezer, what goes in the fridge, what goes to dinner tonight, what goes to the neighbors, like how it's going to be parsed out. But I also feel like in terms of technological advancement, given that we have a lot of humans on the planet who don't have enough food, who don't have parents, who don't have clean drinking water, I do think a larger masculine feminine conversation as to where to focus our technological prowess would be intelligent. Like joyrides to the moon seem really extraneous. Figuring out how a 48-year-old woman can get pregnant feels really extraneous and indulgent when we could be focusing on other things that serve the well-being of the whole.
I guess it depends on, I mean, part of it depends on who, like, what is steering that conversation of what's well-being for the whole. Because I think, there are certain they that what do we say, the
Powers that were.
the powers that were. I was like, what's that term? The powers that were don't give a fuck. They just don't care, because all of the people, like, those are all like, oh, that's just part of the 90% that won't even be here in a couple decades. So part of it is just like reclaiming that piece, so that, like, on the personal local, subscribe to locals, on the personal local
Thanks for the commercial. DannyCats.locals.com.
on the personal local tip, what can I do as a man and as a masculine to enact this? Because it's like, if I don't know how to do it here, then how would we do it in a neighborhood or a community or a country or community? Like, how does that scale up? Because going from the top down, obviously, is like, it's just not, there's too much noise, and they've kind of got that domain, or dialed. They got that dialed. I don't like that, but that's kind of the deal. But they don't have this domain dialed. So, like, what does that look like for me? Not even in my relationships, but like inside of me, right? Because that's kind of where the polarity conversation is, which is kind of what sparked this conversation. Totally. Is my ability to adjust between alpha and omega, which is funny that it's not alpha and beta, because beta has this, like, that's, if you're not alpha, then you're beta, but it's not, because there's a different type of fluidity, which is not like the gender fluidity that everyone's talking about socially. It's that ability to meet whoever is in front of you, recognize what the best service to the moment is, and then be like, cool, I can lean a little bit more into the expansiveness of the feminine, or I can really guide and direct with the masculine. And I think learning that dynamic, it's still going to be in different spectrums for different people. Some people are going to have their whole spectrum of masculine, feminine be like way over on the masculine or way over in the feminine. But if everyone's doing their part, not even doing their part, it's like just mastering what they're here to master, then we're able to meet the moment, meet the person, and then in that way of like check and balance inside myself. Mm-hmm. Right? Because there's this like piece when I'm hearing about the Costco analogy, I'm like, okay, as a man, what's going to incentivize me? Right? So it's like, if I bring 3 months of Costco groceries home, I'm looking for feedback. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm looking for, like, did I do a good job did I, what are you going to do with this? That feedback loop, I have to be listening to know that feedback loop of like, did I like the dinners that came through? If not, then I need to adjust what I'm bringing home. I need to like change the technology that I'm offering. Like I want to be incentivized. I think men are incentivized by the technology that they bring to the female to check and to discern. There's this kind of incentivizing that I can see happening where you want to be, alphaing, or you want to be kind of at the top of the breeding potential by doing the best job, or like, I don't have to like beat someone up. I need to just like provide not the most, but the best, like the most exact for whatever it is that your skill set is.
But that, I mean, yeah, totally. And as I hear you talking about it, like, again, it's inviting a dialogue because you're wanting the feminine to acknowledge you, to thank you, to say good job, to make wonderful things with the things that you chose, to give you feedback on, what's working, what isn't working, to do it better. There's a back and forth in what I hear you saying in terms of the man wanting that acknowledgement from that. And it feels like the feminine, and again, not women, but the feminine is been completely pushed out of the conversation. So we don't have a dialogue going on, which is why it's so unchecked right now, where technology is attempting to take us.
Has it happened before that there's a balance, or there's that the women are not, when's the last time the women were at the table of the conversation, or the feminine was at the table?
Not in this civilization's lifetime, as I understand it. Now, to be fair, I know enough to know that everything I've been taught about history is a total lie. But given that this has been like a hierarchical culture from the get-go, it seems to have been driven by the masculine. I know there are fairy tales of other civilizations, but I think we can look to Atlantis, and it seems like we're on that same trajectory of this unchecked masculine technological advancement, doing humanity a disservice. Are you aware of a civilization wherein they were in balance?
I know that there are like matriarchal civilizations, and less civilizations, but like societies within civilization that don't really abide by, like the Trobrians, I think. Trobrian, that doesn't sound quite right, but it's Trobrian. Sure.
What's the Trobrian?
They're this matriarch society where the women the women are leading.
Where on the planet are they? Here now?
Yeah,
the Navajo Nation is matriarchal, and that's here in New Mexico.
I mean, in some ways, the traditional Judaic has this very deep reverence for the feminine. Not the way that it's really being. I mean, it's hard to find examples now, but I know that there is this in the tradition of it. Like, the women don't have to do a lot of the things that the men have to do. Like the women don't really need to be bat mitzvahed, because they're just automatically initiated by their rite of passage of bleeding, for example. Like, men need to create that passage. It's just like arbitrary at 13 years old. But then there's like, women don't need to, this is at least the way it's, that I understand it, is women don't need to study the Torah like men do, because they already are the Torah. They create life. They are it's all encoded in them. And perhaps if women were given the space, reverence, maybe more so, and the upliftment, they would be able to tap into that deeper feeling sense that are more, that's the feeling knowledge, the somatic sensory map that has the miracle and has the intuition and has like all of this magic that gets suppressed in this culture that men, I think, are seeking to touch and to utilize in the masculine. But it's, again, it's not like an actual pure example of it being balanced or the feminine or a matriarchal society. The Trobriand is very interesting. That was one of Natan's favorite communities.
Where on the planet? What continent?
Tasmania or something?
I mean, I don't really see like what I experience of the Navajo Nation here, and speaking to the people I speak to, it's a very masculinized woman and a very emasculated man. And again, I'm making a gross generalization based on bits and pieces. But when I hear you say this about Judaism, I think like, well, women aren't being honored in their initiation the way boys are with a bar mitzvah, where the community comes together. And if women aren't encouraged to read the Torah, I mean, we know that there's sacred intelligence hidden in that. And then I think of when I used to go to yoga quite early back in the day before I had a cell phone, and my car broke on Beverly early in the morning, like maybe 6:30 in the morning, right in front of a temple. And I went in and all the Orthodox men were davening and they yelled at me to get out. And I'm like, I am a Jewish woman who actually needs help right now. And you are a room full of men, allegedly of my tribe, but all they did was yell at me. No one helped me. So like, I didn't feel.
But there's so many, I mean, when I see that, I'm like, okay, you're not exempling the capital M masculine.
No,
you're just not. So but let's kind of like, I feel like there's something very at the tip here, because we're like kind of poking at these different like, challenges in the dynamics, and like obvious, it's like very easy to see where the holes are and where we're missing the mark.
Yeah.
Like it's everywhere.
Yep.
So what is that? Okay, so there's a movement right now in the like awakened sexuality and intimacy and like returning to being an embodied person that is talking about polarity.
Yes.
And I think the aim of that is actually to get us into a more balanced, more representative conversation of masculine and feminine. And the challenge, it seems, for women who are drawn to that work is to let go of their masculine tendencies.
Or come into a different relationship with them where they're not leading, where it's not just like a conscious default.
Right. Like, I need to provide for myself. I need to, there's this, like, it seems like the surrender element is like the juicy part for women. And for men, it's this feeling of, it's the listening and all of a sudden being a good listener of your body too. And like learning that like, oh, I'm in connection right now, as opposed to this is what I'm supposed to do to be in connection. And it's all intellectual.
Right.
So there, I think it feels new, even, it even has like a little bit of a David Data kind of roots in that. There's all these
the conversation.
He started the conversation. I'm sure there were other people that were doing that. And there were these like it takes a long time for these movements to really catch. Ooh, what is that? Is that a chocolate bar?
I went on a Vibes Up shopping spree for their after Christmas sale.
Is that a like an?
They're squishies.
Oh,
under my water bottle. Sorry to interrupt.
It's so chewy. I want to chew it. Rawr.
But even like, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, like take it.
Even moving from the intellectual to the embodied, like even a man in the intellectual is still having a very advanced conversation because there's an awareness of it. Like, of course, to move into the embodiment is the goal. But I mean, I respect any man who's just even aware of masculine, feminine polarities and inviting that into his own perspective.
I think it's weird that we're talking about this on like humanity-wide scale.
You want to go personal.
I mean, not only personal, I mean, like, even just not all men in humanity have the ability to be aware of their intellectual. Like, they don't have the prerequisites. Like, it's not within their prerequisites of the different lifetimes that they're tapping into.
No, but plenty of those men are actually anchored in their masculine.
Uh, and is it a holistic masculine though? I mean, I guess there's a different thing, right? Like, there are definitely, like, I've definitely listened to podcasts and I've followed people on Instagram that are like very much in their masculine, and it's exciting. There's like this, like, ah, right, that feels good. Like, let's play with guns
I
and
find it
lift weights and
exciting.
things. Yeah. Like, I love that piece. Like, there's something I like paying attention to my magnetism toward that. I'm like, ooh, yeah. Like, it feels good for me to stack a cord of wood. It feels good to me to like chop wood with a hatchet and like clean my gun. Like, there's things that just feel so like good, and man, like push-ups feel good. And that is that is a whole interest set. That's an interest set of things that kind of can draw people together. But I think within the community of men, there are these influencers. There are people, there are like men that have more of an alpha presence. And if those alpha presence men started to say, like, oh, this is how you think and be aware, then there's a whole subset of people that didn't know how to do that would start to know how to do that. And then if they were starting to say, hey, there's this like sensing piece, like, we all need to go in order to have this develop in a more, like, it doesn't even all fit on the screen, in order for this to like come into like power. Like, you can have that gross physical power, like, in order for this to have that like 1 inch punch chi energy tapped in, like, be able to guide your energy through the hand that actually is doing things, as the people who are influencing, which is, I'm going to hold on that thought, people who are influencing that start teaching other people, their followers, to do that, or like just exampling it, then more people will get turned on to it. Was it I think it was a No Agenda show, but it could have been a Quite Frankly. I think it was a Quite Frankly episode, actually. They were talking about the influencer culture is feminine.
Totally.
It,
Totally.
not only by like the participants that are like more women, but there's this like receiving piece that's
It's
like,
also social. It's such a
mm,
popularity contest.
yeah, there's something that has an innate feminine in that, but it's also shadow feminine in the way it's being expressed. So like,
Total
is
shadow feminine.
it the same way where it's the checks and balances, where the men are bringing home this technology, call it, the women are saying, this is how we're going to implement it, and then are the men saying, like, okay, you implement it like that, but we're not going to use those tools, or we are going to use these tools that you have now like integrated in? And if we, is there like a circular conversation of checks and balances?
Well, let's explore this because, like, I don't see a problem with a feminine platform being used for men to do whatever they want. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I see the downsides of social media, but I feel like in what I hear you saying, it's like the more we can render this conversation pop and fun and get it into the collective consciousness, the better served we're all going to be. So if that's through a feminine platform or a masculine platform, I don't know that it matters, but I'm curious, like, what do you see the downsides of that being?
Of it doesn't matter if it's a masculine or feminine, or using a feminine.
Using a feminine platform.
I don't
Or,
think a feminine platform is going to be able to fully express a masculine agenda.
I
It
mean,
might be
there
able
are
to
some people
hold.
that I follow on Instagram, and when they are speaking the evolved masculine, I literally melt. Like I have a physical reaction and I'm just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. So at
But
least for me on some level, it's working.
is that transcending the platform? Like some people I think can tap into that, like, yeah, this might be the channel you're hearing me on, but I'm actually coming through an energetic frequency that is different than this platform.
Well, here's how I see it working for me. Um, I I run a lot of masculine energy on those platforms, and especially for the past 3 years, I've used those platforms to put myself on the line, to speak truths that oftentimes get me in trouble, get me like whatever the issues are around it. But through those platforms, I continue to get a lot of support from masculine men and feeling held and seen, and tracked and to an extent protected by those masculine men emboldens me to continue to play that role. And I honestly don't think that I would still be doing it without that support, um, digital or virtual though it may be. The masculine just says that just right thing that, you know, I don't know, for me, just feeling held and safe and protected in the arms of the masculine, regardless of how far they are, goes a really long way. And I have been getting a lot of that through those platforms.
And that's awesome. I mean, I watch that. Like I can see that in also your need to prove yourself on the platform is not what it was. It used to be more.